and welcome to the final session of Salesforce's Release Readiness Live for Spring 16. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Torres, and it's a pleasure to be here one last time as we take a look at some of the latest features and developments that our App Cloud has to offer. Now, for anybody watching Release Readiness Live for the first time right now, shame on you. This is our last session of Spring 16. But if this is your first time, welcome and thanks for tuning in. The purpose of these sessions is to take the release notes that you may have already read for Spring 16 and bring them to life with live demonstrations from our product experts and live questions from customers like you. Now, you'll get to meet our product team in just a second, but before we meet the people that we're going to be asking questions of, let's find out how we're going to be asking questions of them. So to cover that and more, I'm going to pass things over to Sam Acuff of our success community.
Well, thanks, Mike. I'm just so thrilled to be here. It's really easy to ask a question. You just use the hashtag Salesforce Live, do it in Twitter, or the Release Readiness and Feature Adoption community. That's how I find your questions. You can also ask them in the social stream that you'll find right on the viewer. So it's Salesforce Live, that's your hashtag. Now I want to flip over to the Release Readiness and Feature Adoption community slide. I want you to know that that's your place to stay connected with us every day of the year, throughout the year for each release. And we even do some release rewind stuff. So we bring up features that have been released that we might have all forgotten about, because I know we do that. So join this community so you can stay connected. Again, Salesforce Live is your hashtag. And Mike, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, thanks, Sam. Now, before we hand things over to our panel of experts, there are just one or two quick points that we do need to touch on. As we've mentioned, this is going to be a session that focuses entirely on the App Cloud for Salesforce. Now, if you need to find any of our previously recorded content, you could find both long-form and bite-sized recordings at www.salesforce.com/release readiness. And as a final point before we turn things over, we're definitely going to be looking at our product roadmap today. So to properly set our expectations on that front, we need to review Salesforce's forward-looking statement slide. If you're unfamiliar with this slide, it urges Salesforce customers that any purchasing decisions that they make on Salesforce should be based only on currently available functionality. Simple as that. Without any further delay for myself, I'd like to pass things over to Shelly so we can meet the team.
Thank you. I'm Shelly Ersig, and I'm the product manager for process automation at Salesforce. And I've got some exciting process builder features to talk with you about in just a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Itzik Koren. I'm product manager on the identity team here at Salesforce, and I'm responsible for authentication. Today I'll be talking about the new two-factor authentication features that are coming this spring release.
Hi everyone, my name is Yari Salama. I'm the product manager for platform security, and I'm going to be also talking about transaction security, a new capability and a feature in event monitoring.
And hi everyone, Adam Torman, Director of Product Management, longtime viewer, second-time presenter. And I will be talking about some enhancements that we've made to event monitoring alongside transaction security and my co-owner, Yari. Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Adam. So let's get started talking about Process Builder. So for the last number of releases, we have focused on unleashing a ton of power in Process Builder so that you could use more, do more actions, cover more use cases, and really extend the way that you can automate your business without writing code. And we've gotten some great feedback and great adoption there. Millions, actually billions of processes coming in. And I was joking with Mike earlier that I don't actually know how many processes came in last month because we broke the query. So this is fantastic. We're glad you're using it. And we've also been listening to you. We've gotten some great feedback on the idea exchange and in our success communities. So we started to take a small shift this last release and focus on the ease of building a process. So let's take a look at some of those features. So the first thing we did, it's a small change, but when you go to clone a process, it's a bit irritating. You have to recopy the name and the description from your former process, and doesn't it just make sense to just auto-populate that? So we were able to get that in, and that's just one little way that we're helping you to go a bit faster. The next one was a little trickier. So we've got limited landscape to show field names in criteria and in actions. So we came up with a way to hover over those field names so that you can see the full field name. And I'll show you this in the app in just a moment. All right, the last one is the big bang. I know that many of you, and myself, when I'm building a process, I think, I need that criteria to be second or third or fifth, and I have no way to move it. Well, now you do. You can drag and drop your criteria with just a click and a drag. And so let's flip over to a demo, and I want to show you how that works. All right. So you can see here that I've hovered over the first criteria, and it's drawn a sort of a blue rectangle around the criteria and the associated actions. And if I just select it and move it, and wait a moment because we're on a pre-release org,
And because this is live.
and because it's live, so it always takes longer. Bam. Okay, great. It's simple as that. I can reorder any and all of the criteria. So we know that this will really help make process building a lot faster, and we're super excited about it. I want to give you a quick peek into the field hovering. So in this opportunity, it's set at close loss. So right now you can't see you can just see the word opportunity. And for fields where there are things like namespaces, it gets even trickier. So we came up with this hover ability so that you can go in and see what you did. You might have made a process 3 weeks ago, and you can't quite remember what's in there. We don't want you to have to open everything up in order to see what you made. So we're able to do that. And I think these features are really going to help people go a lot faster. I want to switch back to slides because I want to show you a quick peek of what we are going to be building in the releases to come. All right, so the road ahead, and this is sort of the short-term road ahead. There is more logic we want to embed into Process Builder, and I think the most critical next piece is something that we like to call more than one true. So right now, in a process, it reads the first criteria, and it evaluates whether or not it's true. If it's true, it fires those actions. If it's false, it goes to the next criteria. Well, wouldn't it be super powerful if it could evaluate the entire process, fire actions associated with everything that's true? We know that that will let our users make fewer processes because they can combine, they'll then be able to combine processes and also cover more use cases, more territory. So we're going to be working on that right now. So stay tuned to hear about when we'll be able to release that, but it's going to be a super powerful feature. The next sort of expanded logic piece we'll work on is something called process triggering process. So right now you can use a process to trigger a flow. If you could trigger another process, you could sort of then dictate which order these processes were firing, which I think would help people a lot because right now there's not a great way on the platform to put things in order in terms of how they fire. And I know many people across the platform are working on that in broader initiatives. But this is one way I think that we can help with that effort. So the second piece, second area, a little bit different. There's a need I know that you have to basically be able to manage all your processes. You've got, I'm sure, workflow rules, approvals, you've got processes, you've got flows. We need to create a process home where you can see all of that, get a view of the status of where those processes are, which ones have been run, which ones have never been run, what objects they're sort of residing on, and things like an object view that would say, hey, on account, I've got 3 Apex triggers, a process, a flow, and 5 workflow rules. So giving you that kind of view and also improving the type of troubleshooting and debugging tools that we provide. So we've got an ambitious plan and lots of fun stuff to continue working on. I want to speak just for a moment to folks who maybe tried Process Builder out when it first came out, didn't have as much functionality, or have never tried Process Builder. We have terrific resources for you to get started. The first one is really obvious. Go to Trailhead. You'll learn all about Salesforce. And there's a great process automation trail. It'll help you determine for your use case which tool is most appropriate for you to start with. And then it'll walk you through the use of each of those tools. So it's a wonderful place to start. And then I can't plug enough the success community. Especially, my favorite, of course, is the Salesforce Workflow Automation community. They are incredibly generous with sharing their experience and their solutions. So if you're trying to build something, you can bet that someone has probably already tried to cover that use case. Jump on that community, share a question, or scroll through. People are very generous with sharing their answers. And then as you figure things out, please post your answer there. It's also a great way to keep giving us feedback about what's working with Process Builder and what you'd like to see, in terms of the direction and development of the tool that would be impactful for your use case. And so with that, I will pass it along unless we have questions.
Oh, well, we do have questions. First of all, we have a shout out from Jason, and he is saying finally cloning processes, and he's just thrilled about that. So I want to make sure that I did that shout out. And Christopher is saying process builder to evaluate multiple true statements. So he's saying shout out there, and he loves what's happening over with process builder. I just posted the Twitter, in Twitter, the link to the trailhead that you just mentioned. So it's out there for everybody. If you want, go take that trail. I'd love to see a rush of badges on that particular trail. I think I'm going to go start.
Little robot heads everywhere.
There you go. So a couple of questions. If I create a new record as an action in a process, can I use the ID of that new record in the next action?
You cannot right now, but this is something we really want to do. It's the idea that you're creating a record as part of your process, and you want to take that thing you just created, for example, it could be an approval or something, and hand it off to the next set of actions. So we know that we can enable this. This is something the Flow engine can do, and Process Builder is built on the Flow engine. The challenge for us is to figure out how do we make that, keep that very simple, so that it doesn't become a sort of an overwhelming process, but that's very high on our list in the things that we want to enable. So I would say it's definitely on our roadmap, not the nearest term, but maybe midterm.
Okay, alrighty. And is there an idea out there for that they should go vote on? If not, we should get one out there.
I imagine there must be, but I don't know offhand.
I'll go take a look and see if I can find it. Yeah. All right. Is there a limit on the number of criteria I can put into a single process?
You can do 50, but we don't recommend it. So we recommend that you break up your process before you get more than 20. It just will become unmanageable. So you can go crazy if that's really what you want to do. It's probably going to be a bit slow to load up on the screen, and it may be hard to manage. So we think there's enough. We're not really hearing otherwise.
All righty. So, Mike, I'm sure more questions are going to come through. I have to check the other sources, but why don't we go back to the panel, and then everybody be aware I'm going to do a rapid-fire questions section at the very end. So
Are there prizes?
You'll be on point.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Shelley. As you mentioned, we have so much movement, so much adoption for Process Builder that is getting hard for us to actually measure how often it's being used. So customers must be thrilled with everything that you just shared. But that's not all that we have in store for customers today. To discuss the latest that we have in the realm of two-factor authentication, I'm going to pass things over to Itzhak.
Thanks, Mike. So today I'm very excited to talk about the new two-factor authentication feature. First, the new Salesforce Authenticator mobile app, and then some supportive tool that we built for administrators to allow them to control and monitor two-factor authentication activities in their org. But before starting to cover the new features, maybe let's go a step back and see what two-factor authentication is. So two-factor authentication or two-step verification is an additional layer of security that you can add to protect your online account. It requires users to use not only something that they know, the username and password, but also something that they have, like a random code that they can get to their mobile device via SMS. And we here in Salesforce, we take security very seriously. And the fact is that we have integrated two-factor authentication into our platform a long time ago. And the way that it worked and still working is that every time user log in into an account that requires two-factor authentication, is basically is prompted with a request to enter a one-time password code along with his user credentials. And then user could use the Salesforce Authenticator, the old mobile app, to generate this code and complete the authentication. And this approach works very well, but we also have been listening to our customers, and the feedback that we got from them is that they like the idea of being able to add additional layer of security, but they also want the authentication process to be as smooth as possible. So in this Spring 16, we have completely redesigned and rebuilt the Salesforce Authenticator mobile app and made it much more easier for users to verify their identity in Salesforce. With the new mobile app, users can verify their identity and activities they're trying to do right from their phone, right, by clicking a button without the need to generate or provide any extra code. So I think the best thing to do is just let's see a demo. So let's jump quickly to the demo environment. So here you can see two screens. On the left side is my desktop browser, and on the right side you can see my iPhone, my mobile device. And what I'm going to do now, I'm simply going to log in to my account. And as you can see on the left side, I get redirected to this screen with a request to verify this activity, this login activity. On exactly the same time on my mobile device, you can notice that I got a notification with request to verify this activity. So let me unlock my phone. And as you can see now, this request is popping up and asking me to verify this activity. Here I can review different details about this activity. For example, I can see from what device I was trying to log in. I can even see the location that I was trying to perform this activity. If you're not sure about where you are, you can even jump to this map and locate yourself. And now, if you don't recognize this activity, if somebody else was trying to log in into your account, you can simply block access to your account by clicking the deny option, right? And you have different blocking options, which I'm not going to use today. On the other end, if you do recognize this activity and you trust it, you can also approve access right from your mobile device. So let's do that. Tapping on the approve button, and if you look on the left side, on the desktop, you can see now that the activity is successfully performed and I am successfully logged into my Salesforce account.
That's incredible control that users have over authentication.
Yeah, so
that's unbelievable.
So that's a great example of how you can add extra security without sacrificing usability, without impacting the user experience. But that's not all. There is even more powerful feature. Let's bring the slides again. If you enable location services for your Salesforce Authenticator, you can start telling the app to automatically verify activity from trusted location. So, for example, if you log in from your home, right, you trust your home location, next time that you get this verification request, just before you approve it, you can turn on this automation button and tell the application to automatically verify access from this location. So next time you try to log in from your home, you will still get challenged with two-factor authentication, but this time the application or the mobile app will automatically verify your activity and reply back to the platform. So again, this is a great example of how you can get all the benefit of two-factor authentication without even the need to take the mobile device out of your pocket.
It's incredible. Salesforce has become location aware.
Yep. So you probably want to know now how you can use this cool application. So first, two-factor authentication and the new Salesforce Authenticator mobile app are available for all our customers, regardless of their license or edition. The new Salesforce Authenticator mobile app is supported for iOS and Android devices. It's also supported for Apple Watches. The application is going to be available on App Store and Google Play by mid-February. After you download the app and before you can start using the app to verify your identity with Salesforce, you need to connect the Salesforce Authenticator to your Salesforce account. You can do it by simply going to the personal settings and here under the advanced user details page. If you scroll down, you will find the Salesforce Authenticator registration link. Clicking on the connect link will take you through a very quick registration process. Once you're done, you're ready to start using the Salesforce Authenticator mobile app. So now, for administrator, you may want to enforce a two-factor authentication policy for every user that log in. There are different ways to do that. There is also a new option that is coming this spring release. It's a profile-based settings. So you can go to every user profile page, scroll down to the session settings section, and here on the right you will find the new two-factor authentication policy option. The way that it works is that every user that logs into Salesforce is granted with a standard session level. If you turn on this option, you can request user to authenticate with high assurance session level during login. In order to get this elevated session level, user needs to go through identity verification or two-factor authentication. All you need to remember is that if you want to be able to enable two-factor authentication for a specific user profile, you just need to turn on this option. One more very powerful tool that we built for administrator is the identity verification history view. You can go to the quick search and just type identity verification and get to this page. This verification table basically capture any verification activities real time. Here you can see, for example, how many times each user was challenged with two-factor authentication, what activity they were trying to perform that requires two-factor authentication, status of scores. You can even see from what location the user was trying to perform this activity, right? Not only the IP, but also geolocation. Yeah, one more thing that we did in the Spring release is we decided to API expose the two-factor authentication and the identity verification frameworks. The use case will be if you are an ISV or developer and you build custom solution on top of our platform, you can start integrating identity verification into your solution. So for example, if you build an application that allows users to transfer money from one account to another account, you may want to maybe identify your user again just before they do the actual transfer. So it's a very simple API call, a single API call. When you call this API call, it's basically redirect you to the verification screen. This is the same screen that we saw before with the rotating phone, and that will handle the entire verification for you. So we're really looking forward to see what interesting implementation the developer community and ISV will build using this API. So I cover the main two-factor authentication items that are coming this spring release. Looking forward, what we really want to do in the next few releases is to provide users and mainly administrators more tools to help them to deploy, manage, and maintain two-factor authentication in their orgs. There are different use cases that we want to support. Now, the fact that we're going to build new tools doesn't mean that this use case are not supported today. We just want to improve and emphasize and streamline these processes. For example, if you are a user that required to use two-factor authentication when you log in, and you got to the office and you forgot your mobile device at home, I mean, it happened to anyone, the sysadmin should be able to generate a temporary code that are valid for a certain amount of time and allow you to complete authentication without the need to relax the security policy. Yeah, and with that, I'm ready to take questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Itzhak. Now, Salesforce is obviously investing a lot in trust with this added layer of security. So I think a lot of our customers who need to invest in that added layer of security are very happy with what you just said. But let's find out what they're actually saying. Sam, what kind of questions are you seeing from our customers?
Yeah, so let me go take a look. So one of the things is that was asked is, what if I don't have a smartphone or a mobile device and I want to use two-factor authentication?
Excellent question. So we are investing now in introducing a more two-factor authentication method, basically two-factor authentication method that don't rely on mobile devices. So some sort of hardware-based tokens.
Great. And let me take a look. I have another. Well, this is a question for Shelley, so I'm going to save that till later in terms of SOCWA limits. The only other question that I have right now, because I think that they're absorbing this two-factor authentication, I have a question. So when you said that you can access the API and you talked about the location awareness, so you could use this for verifying a bank transaction or something like that in Salesforce. Is that location awareness, if you've built that in, is that going to work for those use cases as well? Or is that just for the login?
No, so you can call the verification framework, right? And you can bring up our verification framework that will handle the entire two-factor authentication process for you. So if you're using Salesforce Authenticator, it will use your current location.
Okay.
So,
very cool. Mike, I'm going to go back to you.
All right, thank you. And I'm sure if we have more questions come in throughout the course of the session,
I'm
will
going to bring them up.
Thank you so much. Now, as we just mentioned, thank you so much, Itzhak, for discussing that additional layer of security that we can introduce to our customers. But that is not the last that we have to introduce to your customers in terms of additional security features that Salesforce has to offer now. So to discuss that and more, I'm going to pass things over to Jari.
Thank you. So as Mike mentioned, security is and trust is one of our top values in the company. We do various investments in our platform for security. Really excited here to tell you about a new capability we introduced called Security Health Check into the mix of our platform services. And before showing you the actual health check, let me give you a quick overview on why we built the health check. And it really comes down to the fact that security can sometimes be difficult to configure. Business requirements keep changing all the time, and you need to kind of keep your security requirements up with the lines of business requirements. And as the business landscape keeps changing, so does the threats and the configurations. And we kind of heard from customers that they want to validate their compliance status in their applications, and also they could be used to kind of identify additional needs for security, such as ISV solutions or perhaps Salesforce Shield. And so Security Health Check really is a analysis of how you've configured security in your Salesforce org. And we are comparing these different settings against Salesforce security baseline. And does anyone here know what is actually our recommended practice of configuring security in Salesforce?
Jari, I went looking the other day for like an hour all over the place. I was Googling and I was going into help and training. And finally, after an hour, sweat pouring down my forehead, I found the implementation guide. It took me an hour.
That's right. That's right. So we do have a document called Security Implementation Guide that provides the best practices and information how to configure security. And we're using our recommendations in the Security Implementation Guide to kind of reflect against how you've configured security in your Salesforce org. And the using of the Security Health Check is built really to be a very simple and intuitive tool. You basically get a score for your Salesforce org. There's help and training. You can refresh the score when you make changes, and basically we divide information based on high and medium risk alerts in the actual application.
So you really kept the simple and made the complex possible for admins, right? Because usually you have to have these hardcore security engineers, running posture checks and SIM tools. This all really comes back just to the admin, right? We
just try to make it that much easier for the administrator to have a single place to kind of manage this information and really kind of, for those who are, security savvy and tech savvy and want to kind of, peek under the hood, what are we doing and how we're doing it, is that when you take a look at the typical Salesforce org, there's a lot of configuration for security, and each of these security configurations can contain up to 15 different security nodes with endless variations of configuration. And we basically took each one of them and evaluated against the baseline and gave it a security score. And Security Health Check is available for all Aloha and Lightning customer admins in the setup menu under Security Controls with Health Check. And when we evaluate each of these security settings, we basically map them into these high risk, medium risk, and meet standards. But with that, let me actually show you how it looks in action.
So everyone gets this. This isn't something that's just specific customers. Everyone can get this.
Right. So in Spring 16 release, all security or system administrators will be able to have access to the health check. So in the setup menu, by just typing health check, we'll be able then to access the security health check. For this particular org, we are now looking at the 67% score. And we have 4 high-risk settings related to their password policies and some session settings. And we do have also 7 medium-risk settings, something to keep an eye out. And then we have 14 settings meeting the current standard.
That's cool, but I really want to take an action on this. I want to actually, if I have a high risk, how do I fix that?
Right, so we have a button, Edit, which takes you now into the actual value for this. And we're looking at the value of a minimum password length being 5, and we could bump this up to 8 and press Save. And let's go back to health check. And we can see our score immediately went up.
I wish my scores in high school actually did that. That would have been fantastic.
So with that, I encourage you to try out the security health check. Before we move on to the other topics, let me go back to the slides and give you a little bit of a quick view on what we're working on next in the platform security team.
Because this is really just the start of things.
So what's following next is that on the next release, we're planning to add on more settings into the security health check. So it would be really great to hear from all of you what type of settings and configurations you'd like to be health checked. And we are then making it more easier to take action on bulk of items in the health check, as well as then to share the results, importing, exporting the results and the baseline the way that you're looking at, as well as then we're API enabling the security health check. So this should be exciting for all of you ISVs out there to be able to consume the security status of a particular Salesforce application, as well as then moving down the line to the end of the year, working on custom baselines, different compliance. You may be operating in a hospital, in financial services. You may have different kinds of configurations that may be tighter or more loose in their points of view. So with that, I would be happy to take if we have any questions.
We do have some questions, and I'm putting in Twitter a little link that you can utilize to put your ideas on for some ideas around the security health check. So I'm going to add that to Twitter in just a few minutes, but let's get to some of these questions. Well, first of all, Jennifer is saying thank you for the security health check. She's giving you a huge thumbs up. Can you clarify again what additions can use the security health check?
So security health checks is available in all editions. There's a one edition. I think it is not enabled, but it should be available everywhere in the platform editions and the enterprise editions. Basically everywhere.
Okay, alrighty. So, and I'll go take a look at the release notes because it'll.
So the release notes will cover all the editions. There was maybe like one older legacy exception or so, some forth, but basically, I'm doing my best to serve this capability to all Salesforce customers.
Okay, alrighty. And in terms of additional questions, Mike, I think because I know we have some demos coming up, I think what we need to do is defer, and I'll add those to the rest.
I think that's a great idea. We do have a lot of content left to go through before the day is done. So I want to make sure our customers have access to all of the great features that we want to show them. So to waste no more time, I'd like to pass things over to Adam Torman.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about event monitoring. Before I get started, though, one thing that Jari and I co-contribute to is the Salesforce Hacker blog. The reason why is because there's a lot of best practices, tips, tricks. So a lot of the things that we'll talk about, you'll see as blog posts, including the security health check and transaction security and event log files. So definitely take a look at those when you have some more deep down questions. All right, let's get started we talk a lot about the trusted platform, right? And we saw some incredible security features just today coming out in the App Cloud for Spring 16 that are part and parcel part of our trusted platform. And last year, we launched Salesforce Shield as an add-on offering to kind of go above and beyond. And it was really a compilation of many different products, including event monitoring, which at the very beginning, when we launched in November 2014, was just event log files. It also includes Field Audit Trail, which is the archival of field history, and platform encryption supported natively on the Force.com platform. So it's really this amalgamation of this bundle of different products. And the product that Jari and I co-own, Event Monitoring, is the one that we're really going to talk about today, because we've made a number of different advancements in the past year. And you know, when we launched in November 2014, we had a blast. We put it out there, and we had enormous response from our customers. A lot of customers signed up. They said, yes, you know, we wanted logs, and we were tired of filing tickets to get the logs, and we wanted a service where we could manage that process ourselves. We could get the insights we wanted, and it was great. In that process, we heard from very vocal customers feedback that said, we want more. We want more. We need more. We need more granularity. We need more events. We need it to be faster in real time. And we heard that, and that's something that we've been working very, very hard on this past year. And we also heard, well, events and analytics and visibility into this is great. But I want to take action. And that action should not just be a manual process. That action should be based on an asserted policy, a security posture. And that posture should enable automated actions. And those actions should be not just near real time, but absolutely real time in the transaction stream. And then once it's all said and done, well, tell me what happened, because I still owe the auditors something, right? This is for regulated industries. This is for financial services and healthcare, life sciences, and they have to report to someone. And we heard all of this great feedback, and we have been very hard at work trying to fill many of those requests. So the very first request is really around analytics. And we announced Admin Analytics as a Wave application. It hit the release notes, unfortunately, a little prematurely as generally available. I would like to address that. Changes going into the release notes. It is coming out pilot, unfortunately. It's not a statement about the quality of the product. The product is actually fully fledged out and has these features I'll talk about in a second. But ultimately, to be able to easily enable this for customers, that process lives outside a product, and that's something that we need to get into a slot to make sure that that can happen. And as a result, that has caused a delay. So as soon as we can get that passed, that pilot will be turned into generally available, which means anyone can get that as part of event monitoring. But one thing I will offer is if you have event monitoring and you have Wave, contact your AE. And we will just simply put you in for this functionality, because it really is, it's like candy for admins and developers. So let's talk a little bit about what that candy is and what it tastes like. So first off, it comes with pre-configured dashboards, a lot of them. And they cover all the different use cases within event monitoring, whether it's auditability with data extraction, or performance-related questions where you need to optimize, or adoption, who's actually using Lightning, who's using my reports. Not only that, we've created a default 7-day integration that allows us to automatically put select event log files into Wave, and then that kicks off a data flow that just does magical things and turns all of those reference IDs into name values. So instead of the top 10 reports by user ID and report ID, you now see the top 10 reports by username and by report name. And that is a very important feature that we were able to leverage from Wave. And because it's Wave, it's highly customizable. This was really about changing the getting started experience, right? Taking an API first feature, right? Notice it's not API only, but API first, and turning it into an easy getting started experience. So from that getting started experience, you can customize to your heart's content as you explore and really create the processes around that data. And because it's Wave, it's shareable, and we also advanced the first iteration of the pilot, so now it's mobile ready as well. So with that, I'd like to actually jump into a demonstration of it. And the demonstration here really begins, we talk a lot about the trusted platform here. You know, it's something that we've heard repeatedly during the session. It's something we take very seriously at Salesforce. And I was around, I've been at Salesforce for 10 years now, and I was around when the trust.salesforce.com site was launched. Right? We were one of the very first public clouds to say to the world, we should be trusted, and here's the transparency. And part of that transparency, and interestingly enough, not a lot of people know that this is out there, is the ability on this publicly available site to see the performance by transaction count and speed across the entire service. And that's phenomenal. Right now I get to see how is Salesforce doing, right? How is the service doing in general? But you know, event monitoring and Shield really is about going above and beyond. It's an add-on. It's really about how do I turn trust into my trust, right? And for that, we generated the Wave application and Admin Analytics. And this is meant to be button-click simple. This is API first, so you still have all those great ISV applications out there like Splunk and CloudLock and New Relic, but we wanted to really be able to make this very easy within Wave. So all you do is you go to Wave, you click Create App, boom, there's a template right there. It kicks you off. It makes the process easy. And once you're in this application, which is this collection of different dashboards, pre-configured dashboards and integrations, I really start with my overview of my trust. Because at a high level, I want to know how many active users I have. Not just is the is active checkbox checked on the user record, but how many are actually logging in and doing something? And how many total transactions have I had? And what is my average page time or my server time? I see it's, on average, it's about a third of a second. That's pretty darn quick. Max is 38 seconds. I probably want to drill down and find out what's going on. But I don't just want to know about server times that's happening in the pod. I want to know about the end user page times in Lightning. I want to understand their performance characteristics. And I want to be able to see this same transaction count and speed that I saw in trust.salesforce.com, but for my org and for my events. For instance, maybe I'm just interested in UI tracking, which is Lightning. And I'm interested in URI, which is Aloha Desktop. And I'm interested in Visual Force Request because these three really make up the majority of my UI transactions. And I can quickly see over the past week or 7 days, Aloha Desktop, wow, there's way more adoption there. But in terms of speed and performance, especially in this one day, right on the 15th, Visual Force, there's some work I need to do. So let me drill down a little bit more into this. This is very much about security, and one of the main use cases that drive this is who's downloading report content, right? And I want to know things like, of the total report views, how many exports did I have, and what was the percentage of those views that resulted in export? That way I can actually start to understand what the baseline performances and profile characteristics are, so I can differentiate, is this part of Mike's job, or is Mike about to walk away with a bunch of data? But to get to that question of Mike is really about user segmentation. And this is where the beauty of Wave comes about in data flows, because I was able to denormalize these names and then do cool user segmentation. So now I can say I'm only interested in a particular profile, like Open Admin, and I'm only interested in a particular role, like admin, or maybe I'm interested in just a specific user, John Brock. This guy, he's questionable, so I want to know what he's doing. And I want to know because I want to differentiate his by user agent. Is this something that is suspicious because this is like something he doesn't use, right? One customer I talked with, they were able to quickly identify when an attack vector happened because the user agent was so bizarrely different. The browser they were using was this very little known shell-based browser that is very common in the hacker community. And they were able to differentiate purely based on user agent, but of course IP addresses as well. And then I want to see if they actually downloaded reports, what were the reports by name, and what were the reports by username? You wouldn't think that this is a big deal, but IDs, cool, but not very analytical for business analysts. And other use cases like adoption. I want to understand at a glance, Lightning is great, but who's using it? How are they using it, right? What's the performance time look like? As we're getting into the end of the quarter, I want to see maybe Mark Benioff calls up and says, well, I've been having some performance challenges, and now all of a sudden, I actually have data. I don't just have Mark's word, which, of course, I would take at face value. I now have data. It's a data-driven decision because I can actually see what was he doing, and not only that, I can see it broken out and segmented by particular objects, like the account object, to understand what they're doing and how long it's taking and what devices they used, right? And if I'm a developer, I'm interested, our application lifecycle management says, give me a list of Visual Force pages I need to fix and prioritize. Bring it back into Sandbox, fix it, test it, push it out, ongoing maintenance and monitoring. And now I can see this very specifically, not just by user, what they're encountering, but I can quickly differentiate the fixes. So for instance, my max DB time, which indicates a fix for DML, like fixing inserts, updates, queries, is very low for Apex REST API page. And the max CPU time for the Apex controller, very low. I don't need to fix it, it's rocking. However, I probably want to fix the Apex limit event page, because this thing takes a long time. And when I get that call from my App Exchange provider saying, hey, it's time to renegotiate the contract, I can say, well, I actually know how much it's being used. And just a coup de grace from Winter 16, we added in API access to Setup Audit Trail, and that just made it ridiculously easy to add that into our Admin Analytics app. So now I take that great Setup Audit Trail information that I'm used to as an admin, and I can now segment by profiles and users. I can see how many of my users are MAD, stands for Modify All Data, MAD users, versus Customized App users, what they're doing, and even what's happening with Login As, which I know is very critical in regions like EMEA. But just to finish up, When we talk about event monitoring, we talk about how we transition from analytics into actions. And that really starts with understanding our users and how they're logging in and where they're logging in from. And I want to be able to take that information and make a data-driven decision on policies that I can put into place and automate. I can understand the trends of users, how they're logging in, where they're logging in from, what URLs they're using, so that I can use that to make very informed decisions as I craft those policies. And with those policies, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to Yari, who takes it from there with a very exciting new set of functionality around actions. Yari.
Thank you, Adam. So definitely we're now really excited to expand the event monitoring into real-time actions, and not just basically visualize and see what happened, but be able to prevent. And that's really exciting. So our customers can now protect data through prevention. Transaction security introduces Apex policies that customers can write and maintain a higher compliance posture by writing Apex policies and then associate specific real-time actions like blocking the transaction or enforcing a two-factor authentication into a specific real-time event as it happens. And we're really excited to launch this feature next month. And with that, maybe best to give you an example of a real-time action here. So like Adam mentioned, we took a look at the logins. So we would typically evaluate the environment and using event monitoring analytics to determine what type of policies we would require. Maybe we already have policies established in our organization and we want to implement these. One of these examples would be a concurrent sessions policy, so limiting users from logging in from multiple devices at the same time, and then perhaps leaving multiple desktop computers, laptop computers, open and for unauthorized use. And this kind of policy actually we got from U.S. government. It's a specific requirement there. And in this kind of scenario, we would then enforce users to choose between the active sessions upon a login. So with that, let me move into the demo. So here we have an administrator logging into the Salesforce org, and the first thing you see is this custom page, basically providing them a list of their active sessions alongside with some additional information of the timestamp and the IP address of these logins. And upon on the login, the administrator now needs to close these additional active sessions, as our policy is actually enforcing only one active session for administrators. Now, if we open up another tab and basically log in to the environment, we can then take a look at some of the policy components in more detail. And as in this example, we definitely want to kind of control the user access. So you can see that now we have an active session on the other browser open. So now it's immediately enforcing the transaction within as it happens. So it actually like a pre-login event as the event is occurring. We have this relatively simple user interface available in the quick find. You can look up transaction security and the listing of policies that are made available, and alongside their actions. And you can see that for this particular concurrent sessions policy, we're applying the action of ending a session on a login event right there. And the policy itself looks in Apex like this, where we basically describe the policy condition down below, that for system administrators, the number of active sessions can be only enforced into one. And this, of course, helps administrators alongside end users to reduce risk as it comes to number of active sessions
And I find this fascinating. Like admins have a declarative button-click way of creating a policy and can partner with Force.com developers and Apex to create granularity in that criteria in those policies that is just unprecedented. So it's really that partnership between admins and developers here.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, to kind of give you additional example, Adam, you covered a lot of different use cases. Some of the additional policies that customers can consider implementing is, for instance, when a very large data set of data would be exported, and for administrators to stay in the know when such events occur. And similarly, you would look at using the analytics solution of the report export activity and trending, and then basically write the specific real-time policy and perhaps customize it based on user role, perhaps time and additional criteria, and then apply the appropriate action. So let's move on to the demo, and let me give you a demonstration of the API data export in action.
So this isn't just about logins. This goes above and beyond. This is transactions that happen even after we authenticate, like when people try to exfiltrate data.
Absolutely. So in this demo, we are now logging into the Salesforce org, and similarly, as in the previous example, you can find transaction security under the security controls, and you have the active policies that are enabled. And for this particular policy, we're choosing the email notification and in-app notification when a very large bulk of data gets exported from Salesforce environment. This can be identified by number of rows exported or the execution time over the API, where anything over 100 milliseconds would indicate a very large data load. And here's an example how the policy looks like, and where the execution times exceeds, and particularly we're applying this for sales and marketing users for this demo. So switching into Lightning experience in order to view the in-app notification, which as you may know can appear in the upper right-hand corner there, and now moving into the data loader client. Which can be used for large bulk operations. Transaction security policies can work on any API in Sprint 16 and forward, on bulk API, SOAP, or REST API. So here, logging into the same org, and then choosing account objects, clicking next, selecting all fields, and now we're basically extracting every single account object of this particular org to ourselves, which could be an event that you as an administrator or a customer would like to be alerted of. And now going back to the Aloha, we see the pop-up right there, the alert that transaction security policy has kicked off.
Would you say it's a best practice to start your policies around notifications like emails and in-app and then go to blocking? Or should you just go right for the blocking?
Right. I think it will be beneficial, first to experiment with the policies by implementing them with notifications, and then seeing how many email notifications, in-app alerts you're obtaining. And then as you see your policies working and kicking off and firing, you might want to then move into blocking and think about which situations blocking makes the most sense. Or you can actually consider using automation like two-factor authentication and other things when configured to ensure when very large operations with large data sets, accessing sensitive information takes place, that you want to then invoke higher assurance sessions. And let's go back to the slides to take a look at a little bit in more detail the types of policies that we are able to create today, as well as then a little bit what we're working on next on the roadmap. So different policy components for transaction security today include logins. So these are user and admin logins, obviously. Different entities, so auth providers, sessions, client browsers, and login IPs. This means that, for instance, when another administrator goes in and adds IP security, IPs into the IP security, and then perhaps expands the access if blacklist or whitelist type of solutions are being used. Other admins might want to know about it, so you can perhaps get notifications when such items occur. Additionally, we have a very exciting pilot for communities. So we're really excited to work with communities, objects and entities. So you have feed items, comments, chatter posts, ideas, questions, private messages, and you can then take action when specific conditions occur for these communities items. And like I showed in the demo for data export, from API, you can then build different policies for those, as well as then when users are accessing specific resources, we support connected apps, reports, and dashboards, and you can then write real-time policies around these capabilities. And we'll come back to the roadmap a little later, but we're basically continuously expanding the framework to cover more capabilities, and it will be very interesting to hear from you, also from customers, that what types of real-time needs you have. And then just one word about the pilot that we definitely kicked off for Spring 16 related to communities. So you may have use cases where you have unwanted chatter posts. You may have users that are posting unwanted content.
I've been trolling Shelly's community nonstop. Does that mean it has to stop?
So maybe Shelly can implement some security checks for those posts and then scan them using web services API callouts, or then rate limit. If you're just putting too much content, you can then take different actions like freeze users or block posts and those sort of things. And that's really all I have for transaction security. And let's move into additional items on the event log side.
Thank you very much, Ari. So event monitoring in the past year, as you can tell, has grown and it continues to grow. And we listen to our customers and we know that there is a lot more we need to do, and we're really excited to continue to provide it. One of the features that has been in pilot that is now generally available, means all of our event monitoring customers automatically get it, is something called login forensics. And login forensics really is the long-term storage of login information, right? Think about login history. Right? Everyone gets it. It's fantastic. You get 6 months of it. But what happens if you need it longer? How do you archive that? How do you have access to it? More importantly, how do you have access to it for real-time purposes or near real-time purposes for analytics and analysis, and use it for session trackability? So we built out login forensics. It is API first. You have the ability to extend out information. You have not just IDs, but username is in there. You can extend out with the HTTP headers to be able to collect additional information through integration so that you can do advanced profiling characteristics. One of my customers said every time someone comes from the trading application into wealth management to view a contact, I want to track that transaction off platform, onto platform, and back off. I need the ability to extend login information. And I need to be able to build custom applications around it that highlight my workflows, or be able to, because I'm a Wave wizard, be able to pull this in using tools like another pilot, Async Sockle, so that I can easily integrate this back into Wave. So just for a quick demonstration of this, now as I mentioned, login forensics is an API first feature, and so to show it, I can either show a blinking cursor, which is fun and fascinating, or I can show a Visualforce page that represents it. But the first thing to understand is if you are an event monitoring customer, this is opt-in. So you will come into setup and you'll see this new event monitoring setup node, and then you can enable it. Once it's enabled, it starts collecting that data and starts the clock on the 10 years. And one of the things you'll notice about this data as I show in this Visualforce page is it has the same kinds of attributes as login history. We're working very closely with the authentication team to take all the phenomenal work they're doing and make sure that it's available in this add-on for really advanced use cases. Not only am I able to track things like the actual login history ID, which is session ID, I know who the user is by the username in case that ever changed. This is immutable. This is audit data. But then, very fun, I have additional information like a correlation ID or where this came from, right? And really, login forensics is the tip of the iceberg. Another feature that we talked about, and this is very much in conjunction with what we're doing with transaction security, is data exfiltration. I keep hearing from customers, tell me who's taking data off the platform. if it's legitimate or not legitimate, we can enforce it by policy, but I just simply want to know. And since API, if you notice, that was one of the things that Yari highlighted. We are a very API-driven company. More than 51% of our network traffic goes through it. For instance, when people go and they access sensitive fields like social security number or PII, like email and phone and name, we want to know about that. We want to know which records people saw, right? What did they see when it was sensitive? And so we built out this pilot called data leakage, which we launched and gave you some very good information, but we advanced that in spring to not only tell you who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, but also did they access particular cookies like social security number or phone number, and then what actual users, right, and what actual records were viewed. And this one is critical, right, because what happens is when my auditors come and say, who saw Mark Benioff's pension record, which we blogged about in Salesforce Hacker, or who saw this patient's record, which is a HIPAA compliance standard. Now all of a sudden, using great new functionality like async SOCL, I can now create things that are reportable in nature. So I can tell you that this user on this date ran this query against this particular contact record, and I can tell you what records were returned. And that becomes incredibly powerful for the audit use case. So to wrap this up, we've been working very, very hard in the past year. We brought on transaction security. Yari has been phenomenal. And we are really trying to differentiate from our trusted platform to all the things that are above and beyond that are part of this add-on that is Salesforce Shield. For instance, login forensics is fundamentally different from login history in that it's 6 months versus 10 years. 10 years is a long time. But it's also extensible, and we can do very cool things with it because it's in our big data stack. So data leakage, I talked about with real-time events. To get to our roadmap, I'm just going to take the top half. Event monitoring is both about analytics and actions. We talked about today the things that we are doing in Spring 16. Looking forward, what we are starting to work on today as a team is to get that Wave app to generally availability, which we're hoping in the summer 16 release will come out. We heard from a number of customers who are using event log files. 24 hours is good. I want better. So we're working on a pilot for the summer 16 release to get it down to about an hour. That way we can get a lot of that performance, optimization, and adoption information out sooner. And then finally, in the second half of 2016, it's really about bringing these things all to fruition with generally available features, in which case, hopefully, I will be a third-time presenter in Release Readiness Live. Yari, how about you? What's coming in transaction security?
Right, so Spring 16 is all about login events and now data export events over the API and the communities pilot that I went through. We're right now working on the Summer 16 release to get those policies that are in pilot, obviously GA, and then also include any user interface-based data export events covered. And that should cover all possible data export events from Salesforce point of view. And then towards the second half of 2016, we also want to improve the user interface. So I wanted to make even more easier for users to write these real-time policies and take action. And then also we are thinking about capabilities to provide some information when a specific behavior is anomalous. It's not typical for the user. There's some kind of a difference between the normal behavior and connect these two into the real-time events as we go forward.
That's some powerful data science.
Absolutely. So a lot of stuff on the roadmap, a lot of hard work ahead, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Absolutely. So with that, we would love to take some questions from our Release Live, Readiness Live audience.
Well, I'm gonna hit you with one question right up front. We have a lot of features. We have great security features for everyone. But can you speak to this evolution of our security add-ons and the reasoning behind that roadmap? Because I want to set the stage for our audience.
You know, I love that question, and I actually get that question on a daily basis. That's why it's one of my favorite questions. When event monitoring came out, and indeed Salesforce Shield, one of the responses we heard from our customers is, okay, it's an add-on. I kind of get that there's an additional charge. Why? Why is it different? right? Why is it different from the things that we already do? And I have to go back at the high level, when we talk about being multi-tenant, and the analogy that oftentimes we talk about with multi-tenancy is, many different organizations sharing the same apartment building, right? And there's just really fundamental security aspects of that apartment building. Locks on doors, locks on windows, a doorman or woman that is put in place to ensure security for everyone. But then there are some of those apartments in that apartment building that they really need to go above and beyond, right? They need a security door, or they need a guard dog, or they need video cameras. And those are things that fall on the tenant to really do, right? Those are above and beyond what is as part and parcel as part of that trust of that apartment building. And that really is the strategy around the add-ons. We take trust very seriously, and we define trust as all those things that we do from a security standpoint to ensure that we have security for everyone. But we also know as we go into certain industries, regulated industries, healthcare, life sciences, financial services, different regions of the world, that there are additional security capabilities that maybe not everyone needs or requires, but definitely particular customers. And we want to be able to make sure that when we focus in on those customers being able to do it, we are doing things that are truly extraordinary and are cost effective for us for being able to do things like login forensics, right? If you think about that, login history, it's very transactional, it's very now, you can do very cool things, but it only goes 6 months. It's temporal in nature. But when you talk about audit use cases, which not all of our customers have, many of them have regulatory requirements that go up to 10 years, then we start to get into that really add-on posture of, well, for 10 years, then we need to talk about additional storage and capabilities, and that's really more of a niche for our customers, and that really has been the general guidance that we've used as why we differentiate some aspects of the Trust Platform as just security for everyone versus some aspects which are truly part of this add-on that we're proud to bring to market with Salesforce Shield.
That's awesome. That's and that great answer to the question, because different customers have different needs. So I want to get into, I'm getting a lot of questions about the metrics that you were showing, and people want to understand, do they need a Wave analytics licensing for that kind of event monitoring that you were showing? So what do they have to be able to be at that party?
You got it. So admin analytics is predicated entirely on the event log files, which does require an event monitoring license. Mm-hmm. In addition, while it is in pilot, it does require having the Wave platform. If you have both the Wave platform license and you have the event monitoring license, then it is a very simple task for an AE to reach out to me for me to turn it on. And I am happy to turn it on because I want more people using this, not less. I think this is a very powerful feature. In terms of where it's going to go in the future, that is as we get to generally available, then for rev rec reasons and legal reasons, I get to share exactly how that is going to work from a Wave licensing perspective.
Okay, so we have to kind of wait for that for going forward. But if you have Wave and event monitoring, then
I will just turn that thing on for you, and you can analyze to your heart's content.
I think a lot of account executives are going to get phone calls today.
I hope so.
So in case you didn't catch that, you got to call your account executive, and then they'll reach out to you.
It's interesting. We're in the middle of Q4 right now. We're ending January 31st, and I am on constant email and chatter and phone calls around this exact question. And we actually have a lot of deals that are being done where customers are saying, okay, I want restricted licenses around this ability to have both Wave and event monitoring, because it's a phenomenal way to understand how Wave works. It's a gateway that allows you to really understand the power of exploring your data. And because there's so much wonderful data that you can mine from event monitoring that just becomes easy at your fingertips with that app. So it's sort of full bore right now, which is great to see.
Great. So that should have answered Carol and Danielle and Mark. That should have answered your questions in Twitter. So I want to get back, just real quickly, say again how the login forensics is different to the login history. I heard 6 months, 10 years, anything else?
So that's, if there's a guiding rule of thumb, that's probably it. But there is more. Right? When I talk about things like data leakage, where you have the ability to capture at a very granular level the records that were viewed, not just edited, but viewed, One of the key aspects of that is that ability to track it back to a single session, right? Because here's the flow I hear from customers. They say, I really want to understand if someone saw Mark Benioff's pension record, I want to be able to understand not just how they did that, but what else did they see? Because maybe this was just a targeted action, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was many actions. So for instance, I can see that Mark Benioff's social security number was accessed here. I can then come back to the session ID, and I can use that session ID to correlate across multiple activities. But not only that, because I can actually bring that into login forensics, now I actually have a profile that differentiates by browser, by API type, that creates a profile of a characteristic. So if someone asks me, who actually saw that, and was it actually that person? I can now not only say, yes, it was that person, or no, but I can say, here were all of the other things that they saw. And this is because we're able to effectively team with the authentication team as they come out with these wonderful schemas and data models around login information, verification information. We're able to work closely with them. They handle these phenomenal transactional applications, and we can now create these amazing audit applications. But that starts with login forensics. So login forensics at face value, it's longer login history, but it becomes so much more powerful as we start to get into a lot of these trackability and audit use cases where I need to track this to a very granular level. Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, and what was that cookie?
Awesome. Okay. Are there stock policies for transaction security, or do I need to write them myself?
Right. So in Spring 16, there's two. There's one called the concurrent sessions policy that we went through, and then there's a one for data export over the API for leads. And you can then go in and customize these policies if you like, or you can write your own. But there's two policies that are enabled by default.
Thank you. And Mike, I'm going to go into rapid fire. We're ready
It's good.
for
We have
that?
time for just a few rapid fire questions.
Okay. So Cindy asked a great question. If I change the password requirements for my users and their current password doesn't meet them, what happens? I thought that was an awesome question.
Or the password
So
policy?
if you changed your password requirements,
Right.
everybody's logging in, you're an existing org, you've been around for 2 years, and then you change your password requirements through the setup screen, what is the resulting behavior for your end users?
Only for new users that is automatically enforced. The current users are basically unimpacted unless you go and expire the users completely and then reforce them to into this new policy. So you have to enforce them into the new policy.
So it sounds like a best practice would be write up your documentation, let everybody know that this is happening.
That's right.
And then expire them and set your new password policy, because it doesn't really do anything if half of your users aren't even on that password policy.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
One more rapid fire question.
One more question. Okay. Let me see. I'm sorry. I want to go back to, these are all, sorry, I have to find the questions. These are all event log, and I want to get back to Shelley. We have some questions about any changes to SOQL queries that our users need to be aware of. And they were hoping that you might be able to answer anything that's new that they need to go to the release notes and take a look at.
There's nothing new this time. So
Okay.
last release, what we did was we optimized the way we do SOQL queries so that we would be able to handle more bulk use cases.
Okay,
Right?
already.
And so that was last release. They should have seen improvements in terms of handling bulk use cases from there. And that's mostly what we heard. So let them know if they have a specific question. Feel free to
Okay.
post it on the success community.
Okay, already. And I'm just going to say, boy, everybody needs to check out this new security health check, because that's just awesome. So, Mike, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for that great customer feedback. And speaking of customer feedback, since we are constantly trying to improve how viable these Release Readiness Live offerings are for your customers, we are putting a survey up on www.salesforce.com/release readiness. If you can help us help you by filling out one of these surveys, we're going to enter you into a drawing to win one of 25 Salesforce hoodies just for completing a survey. So do us a favor and help us make this more valuable for you, and we'll help you out and keep you warm. But it looks like that's about all the time that we had for not just today's session on the App Cloud, but for Spring 16 in general. So without any further ado, I'd like to thank both our product team. I'd like to thank Sam Acuff. I'd like to thank Salesforce Studios for doing such a great job in putting this broadcast on. But most of all, I'd like to thank you, our customers, for taking the time and investing your own energy in staying up with the latest that Salesforce has to offer so that you can keep your company on the vanguard of everything that we can do to make your business run better. So on behalf of all of Salesforce, this has been Mike Torres saying, can't wait to see you at the next release. Until then, we wish you the best and success.